My childhood was ruined, along with thousands of detransitioners that I know through our networks. This needs to stop.
If progressives and people on the left are going to say, listen to the victims, well then, listen to the victims. I want to play this video by this brave young lady who had transitioned from being a female to try to become a male, and then ultimately realized how much of a mistake she made, and then detransitioned back. And she's warning the people around the country, be it on news stations, or in this case before Congress, testifying about the dangers of it and why they should outlaw it. Her point is, as a victim, that this procedure should be banned for young people.
My name is Chloe Cole, and I am a detransitioner. Another way to put that would be, I used to believe that I was born in the wrong body, and the adults in my life whom I trusted affirmed my belief, and this caused me lifelong, irreversible harm. I speak to you today as a victim of one of the biggest medical scandals in the history of the United States of America.
Now, I like how she puts that when she says that she speaks as a victim of one of the biggest medical scandals. And I think that's right. I think this will go down in history at some point in time. We're going to look back and we're going to ask ourselves, what in the world were we thinking? We are literally experimenting on kids, on babies, on young, impressionable people. And it's going to take either an act of Congress, or I think probably even more, lawsuits to start flying. I mean, lawsuits against parents, lawsuits against hospitals, lawsuits against drug manufacturers, lawsuits against therapists. I think that's what it's going to ultimately take.
You, in the hope that you will have the courage to bring the scandal to an end and ensure that other vulnerable teenagers, children, and young adults don't go through what I went through.
That's really the issue, though, is she's saying vulnerable. Now, here she is now. She's 19. So it's not like that she's 30 looking back. Here she is even at 19. The difference between a 19-year-old, an 18-year-old, or a 17-year-old, it's not a lot of difference. Really isn't. I know for a fact. So there is no difference, but the fact that she knows this and she's saying that they're all vulnerable.
At the age of 12, I began to experience what my medical team would later diagnose as gender dysphoria. I was well into an early puberty, and I was very uncomfortable with the changes that were happening to my body.
Now, when you listen to this part, tell me, can't you relate? How many people that you know didn't feel some sort of uncomfortableness about it? I don't know if that's a word, but how many people do you know that didn't feel uncomfortable going through puberty? All of us do. Trying to figure out what we're going to be, how we're going to look. Does it matter? Should I start feeling a certain way? Should I start acting a certain way because my body's changing? There's a lot of hormonal stuff happening there. And so for boys and girls, it's an issue. And there's always a little bit of, matter of fact, not even a little bit, but a lot of uncertainty. Then you got other kids there that might be making fun of you. You're seeing images that are portrayed before you from TV, from movies, from social media. It is obviously a hard thing to deal with. Everyone goes through it. But now it's as though it's become a curse. It's become a disease. And so let's vaccinate that.
I was intimidated by male attention. And when I told my parents that I felt like a boy, in retrospect, all I meant was that I hated puberty, that I wanted this newfound sexual attention to go away, that I looked up to my brothers a little bit more than I did to my sisters.
That's normal. That's just normal. Can I give you guys a news flash? And you all probably know this. Boys and girls dress up as they're growing up. Sometimes little boys want to dress up as little girls. Little girls dress up as boys or males. That's just normal because maybe they see a male figure, or the boys see a female figure, and they put stuff on their head like it's long hair, but they don't mean anything by it. How do I know? Because they also get on all fours and act like they're a horse or a dog or a tiger. They flap their arms and act like they're flying. They put a towel around their neck and act like they're Superman or Batman. That's what they do. They imagine things. They portray those things they've seen, but it's just a momentary phase. But I want you to hear what she says, what happens when she tells her parents this, and then her parents take her to a doctor, and the horrifying story, the lie that the doctors give her or her parents to make them do the wrong thing.
I came out as transgender in a letter I sent on the dining room table. My parents were immediately concerned. They felt like they needed to get outside help from medical professionals, but this proved to be a mistake. The gender specialist I was taken to see told my parents that I needed to be put on puberty-blocking drugs right away. They asked my parents a simple question: would you rather have a dead daughter or a living transgender son?
when you put it that way, what parent is going to say, you know what, I hate the fact that my child is going through this or thinks this. I wanted my child, and maybe the parents really truly wanted their child to be straight, but and they're against this child being homosexual or transgendering, what have you. But then faced with this fact, because I'm trusting the professional who says, would you rather have a live transgender child or a dead child? Well, you'll do whatever you can to prevent your child from being dead. If they have to live this way, you hate it, but at least they're alive. That's the picture that they paint, but what they did was they lied. And as a matter of fact, there's a scripture in the Bible that I think applies in Romans 1. Let's start in 25. It says, for they exchanged the truth of God for a lie and worship and serve the creature rather than the creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. And what I mean by that, why I pull that up, is that they'll take what is a truth. Now, they have been trained a certain way. They understand how male and female sexual behavior and growth happens. And there's a lot of discomfort, a lot of unease in that. And to tell her this, or tell their family that lie, that she's going to kill themselves, denying the actual truth of it all. The truth is this: leaving them as they are, 80+% of them are going to revert back to who they are. In most cases, heterosexual. But having them to transition, that's where the danger comes. That's where the suicidal tendencies go off the charts. So if you want to have a live child, leave the child alone. We worked through it. Why can't they? That's what the doctor should tell them. Now, if they need some help kind of coping and working through it, well, that's fine. That's another story. But to tell them to change who God made them, to change from that and become something that they cannot exist as, that's the horror. And I pray that people start exercising their judicial rights, their rights to sue these people. I hope they take that course, because I think that's what's going to have to happen.
The choice was enough for my parents to let their guard down, and in retrospect, I can't blame them. This was the moment that we all became victims of so-called gender-affirming care. I was fast-tracked onto puberty blockers and then testosterone. The resulting menopausal hot flashes made focusing on school impossible. I still get joint pains and weird pops in my back, but they were far worse when I was on the blockers. A month later, when I was 13, I had my first testosterone injection. It's caused permanent changes to my body. My voice will forever be deeper, my jawline sharper, my nose longer, my bone structure permanently masculinized, my Adam's apple more prominent, my fertility unknown.
You all remember when we used to hear these commercials? I think we still do. I don't know, but you hear these commercials about some sort of pill that you take. You want a pill to kind of maybe clear up acne or something. Then it gives a list of side effects, and the side effects are long. They go through them really quickly because in many cases, some of the side effects are worse than what you're trying to cure. Well, that's really what she's saying. The side effects are far worse than what she was dealing with in the first place. And that, my friends, I think that's why a lawsuit, class action lawsuit, doesn't know, but whatever it is, that needs to happen.
I look in the mirror sometimes and I feel like a monster. I had a double mastectomy at 15. There was nothing wrong with my still developing body or my breasts, other than that, as an insecure teenage girl, I felt awkward about it. Before I was able to legally drive, I had a huge part of my future womanhood taken from me. I will never be able to breastfeed.
And so you can make that decision at 15, at 14, at 13, at 12, and you see this stuff happening younger and younger and younger. You can make these decisions for these kids, and you call it gender-affirming care, but they can't do anything else before that age. They can't drive, they can't vote, they can't smoke, they can't consent to sex, they can't do any of these things, but they can change the course of their life forever. They can be forced to become suicidal. And I say forced, they're not asking to do so because they don't know any better. They can't consent legally to anything else. But this right here that we've never even dealt with before, there's no real research on it. This is as horrific as it possibly can get.
I struggle to look at myself in the mirror at times. After surgery, my grades in school plummeted. Everything that I went through did nothing to address my underlying mental health issues that I had. And my doctors, with their theories on gender, thought that all my problems would go away as soon as I was surgically transformed into something that vaguely resembled a boy. Their theories were wrong. The drugs and surgeries changed my body, but they did not and could not change the basic reality that I am and forever will be a female.
The Bible tells us that, this is in Psalm, he says, I will give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, which is this young lady, and my soul knows it very well. We've got people that want to exchange, again, the truth for a lie and cause these people that know you were born wrong, you were made wrong, and we can fix that. We've got some drugs that can fix that. No, you can't. You cannot change her chromosomal makeup. You cannot change who she is or who he is if it's a boy. You can't change what they actually are. What you can do is you can create a bigger hole in their heart, in their soul, because they're still going to feel not just awkward, but feel suicidal.
When my specialist first told my parents that they could have a dead daughter or a live transgender son, I wasn't suicidal. I was a happy child who struggled because she was different.
Did you hear what she said? She said, I was not suicidal. I was a happy child, but there were some struggles, but that's every teenager. If you got a teenager, walk into their room. Try to make them feel uncomfortable. It doesn't take much to make a teenager feel uncomfortable, but they have to adapt. They have to learn how to get past that. They have to learn how to cope. What we've got are a generation of kids, young kids, as a matter of fact, even those in their 20s and 30s, some 40s now, unfortunately, who simply don't know how to cope. Don't know what it's like to be uncomfortable and still have to get up and walk and live, though they're uncomfortable or a bit awkward. That's part of growing up. That's life.
However, at 16, after my surgery, I did become suicidal. I'm doing better now, but my parents almost got the dead daughter promised to them by my doctors. My doctors had almost created the very nightmare they said they were trying to avoid. We need to stop telling 12-year-olds that they were born wrong, that they are right to reject their own bodies and feel uncomfortable with their own skin. We need to stop telling children that puberty is an option, that they can choose what kind of puberty they will go through, just so they can choose what clothes to wear or what music to listen to. Puberty is a rite of passage to adulthood, not a disease to be mitigated. My childhood was ruined along with thousands of detransitioners that I know through our networks. This needs to stop.
And even though she's reading, you can just feel the emotion. It's hard to listen to that and you not get emotional. It's hard to listen to that and you not cry because of what's done to this baby. She's 19, but she's still a baby. She's still a child. And unfortunately for her, her childhood was ruined. I feel bad for the parents because maybe, as she says, that they were duped. When you're told this lie that your child is going to die, your child's going to kill themselves, what do you do? Especially if it's something that you're just not familiar with. Now, most of us, I would think, probably wouldn't go with that. Most of us would say, you know what, you are a quack and I'm never coming to you again. But again, these parents care for their child, at least it seems so with this particular person. And though there are a lot of parents who don't, who think it's fashionable to have a transgender child, who will even encourage their child to do so, well, God will deal with them. But we also, in this meantime, ought to deal with these people, either in Congress who won't vote this, make this illegal, as well as these doctors and so forth, these therapists. Let's make this illegal, but let's also be supportive of anyone. I hope there are people out there that are lining up to file lawsuits. I really do, because I think that there needs to be somewhere somebody that is going to protect the kids. I just pray the Lord will cover this country and cover these kids and even send some sense to these parents that are out there. Amen.